Welcome to the Dinosaur George podcast, a show about paleontology and other earth sciences. Dinosaur George is a public speaker, author, and TV host with 30 years of study in paleontology. He has performed live in over 4,500 events across the US and Canada. Now, here is Dinosaur George.
Hey there, everybody. Welcome. I'm Dinosaur George. You are listening to podcast number 121. In this episode, our feature creature is Torvosaurus, a dinosaur that I really like a lot, but not as much as my favorite Allosaurus. But still, Torvosaurus is a very interesting dinosaur. I've also got an interview with Emily Caggiano, a student at Ohio University Honors Tutorial College, and she's also a video host for the Whitmer Lab. Now, you absolutely need to stick around and listen to this interview. She's an incredibly bright and intelligent young student, but she's also associated with Whitmer Lab, which I'll go into more detail about later on in the interview. It's an amazing place for information, and you've absolutely got to go there. Then I'll answer a couple of questions from you, the listeners, and I'll wrap it up with some updated appearance dates and locations for my traveling museum. So, sit back, relax. This is going to be a lot of fun. Here we go.
Would you like to buy fossil replica skulls, teeth, claws, and more? Then visit our catalog at store.dinosaurgeorge.com. We sell replicas rather than real fossils so that we don't deplete the resources. Our replicas and casts are museum quality and look real, but are much more affordable. From dinosaurs to ice-aged mammals to modern animal skulls, there is something for everyone. Visit our online catalog at store.dinosaurgeorge.com and start your collection of amazing fossil replicas today.
It's time for our feature creature segment. If you would like to suggest a creature, go to dinosaurgeorgepodcast.com and post it in the comments section of this episode, or email us your suggestions to contact@dinosaurgeorge.com. And now, our feature creature.
Our feature creature is Torvosaurus. Torvosaurus is a bipedal theropod. For you young listeners, what that means is it walks on two legs, and theropod means it's a carnivore, it's a predator. The name Torvosaurus in English translates to savage reptile. It's estimated to be about 39 feet long, about 8 feet tall at the hips, and weighed between 3 and 4 tons. Now, the reason why I say estimated, you have to remember that on a lot of dinosaurs, complete skeletons are very, very rare. And so what scientists have to do to be able to make these estimates is look at other similar dinosaurs, sometimes comparing close relatives and looking at the size of bones that they found and comparing them to other dinosaurs that might be more complete. But again, they have to be dinosaurs that are very similar so that scientists can make these estimates and these estimates be close. These animals lived during the late Jurassic, around 155 to about 150 million years ago. They were found in North America, and evidence suggests they may have lived in Portugal as well. Now, if you take a look at a map, the first thing you notice is you can't walk from North America to Portugal. So how did a dinosaur like Torvosaurus end up over there? Well, clearly they had the ability to build a boat. Okay, I made that up. At one time, remember, most of the Earth's land masses were all connected, and so at different points in time, animals were capable of moving between continents. That's why we find similar dinosaurs in North America and in Africa, because at one time you could travel between those two. In 1971, Vivian Jones was digging in Moffat County, Colorado, and found a large thumb claw. She showed it to famed fossil hunter Jim Jensen, who was working for Brigham Young University. Jensen and other workers at that site searched for more fossils and ended up officially naming and describing the dinosaur in 1979. Now, you may wonder, why did 8 years go between when Miss Jones found the claw and the dinosaur was described and named? Well, It takes that long sometimes for paleontologists to be able to do the necessary research to make sure that when they name a dinosaur, it's as close to being completely accurate as they can make it. So that's why it takes so long. Now, since that time, they've found more fossils that have been unearthed, so it gives them a little greater insight into this dinosaur. You know, there was a couple of other dinosaurs that were discovered that it could be they are also Torvosaurus. One was called Edmarca, one was called Brontoraptor. Now, how can you find other dinosaurs, or how do you name other dinosaurs when one was found earlier and these turned out to be the same animal? Well, again, it depends on which bones were found. Sometimes it's difficult if you're only finding a few bones at each site to come to the realization that, hey, it's the same animal. Somebody just thought they found a new specimen. And that's the best part about science. True scientists don't worry about accuracy if they can be proven that something else is right. They don't fight tooth and nail and scream, no, I named it, it's going to stay that way. Scientists, at least paleontologists, are willing to stand up and say, I see that. I understand that, yes, that may be that same animal. It's the greatest part about science, is that they're constantly improving and correcting mistakes of the past. And that's what I love about paleontology. Now, this animal is not a member of the Allosaurus family. Even at the beginning, I said he looks very similar. He's not truly a member of that family. Instead, it seems to be a closer relative of Megalosaurus from Europe. So even though on the outside, it looks very similar to Allosaurus, it may not be as closely related to Allosaurus as one might think. It also could have been the largest predator of its time. It had exceptionally long, thin teeth that weren't really made for bone crushing, but were better for slicing meat. Now, once again, I use this may have been stuff. The reason why I say that is because estimates of size are always contingent on how much of the fossil's been found. But what has been found has led some paleontologists to believe that this dinosaur may have been the largest carnivore of its time. Now, again, there's Saurophaganax and Epantarius, but once again, those are poorly known animals. So it's all at this point up to debate. And some people believe because of the shape of the teeth, these dinosaurs may not have been really adapted well for hunting, but maybe they were just bullies of the Jurassic. Maybe they waited for dinosaurs like Allosaurus and Ceratosaurus to go in and take away their food. And that's not unusual in the animal kingdom. Look at a lion. Certainly a lion has the ability to go out and hunt on their own, and they do. But would they rather go in and take away prey where some other animal has risked its life to kill it? Absolutely they would. So it wouldn't surprise me at all that Torvosaurus may have just been a very big bully who may have looked like an Allosaurus, but may not have been as closely related to it as one might think. Okay, when we come back, we'll interview an up-and-coming student who is studying cellular and molecular biological scientists, and she hosts a YouTube series for the Whitmer Lab. It's a great interview with a very bright future for a young scientist, so stick around. I'm sure you'll enjoy it.
It was the largest predator in North America and known simply as the King. Now you can own fossil replicas from Tyrannosaurus Rex, the king of the dinosaurs. Our online store is filled with T-Rex teeth, claws, skulls, and more. Display them in your room or office, or use them as teaching aids in the classroom. Our prices are affordable, and we don't add excessive shipping fees. They are great gifts for anyone who likes dinosaurs. Go to store.dinosaurgeorge.com to see our wide selection.
All right, we're back. If you are a fan of dinosaurs, both living and extinct, or if you find anatomy and biology interesting, one of the best places to go for information is the Whitmer Lab. It's created and run by one of the leading scientists in the world, Professor Larry Witmer of Ohio University, and their Facebook, their website, and their YouTube channels are filled with incredible amounts of information and knowledge. You've got to go visit them. Well, recently I've been watching a YouTube series they created on Tyrannosaurus Rex, and I was very impressed with the host of that series. So here to tell us more about the lab and her video series, Dissecting with Emily, is the host of Dissecting with Emily and a sophomore student at Ohio University Honors Tutorial College, where she is studying molecular and cellular biological sciences. Emily Caggiano, it is a pleasure to speak with you.
You too. It's glad to talk to you.
You bet. Now, that is an awfully long title. You're not going to get a business card with all that on there, are you?
Oh, gosh, no.
Okay. It's good. Let me ask you, is it okay if I call you Emily? Is that all right?
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay, great. The reason, and for you young listeners, the reason why I wanted to mention that is sometimes you see people on YouTube or on TV, or you hear them on the radio, and you tend to have you think of them as a friend, which is great. But always make sure when you introduce yourself to someone, you refer to them in a proper term. If they are a doctor, if they are a professor, if they are, if it's Mr. or Miss or Mrs., make sure to introduce yourself. And then if they're okay with you calling them by their first name, you can. So, Emily, that's why I asked you, and thank you for letting me do that. So first off, Can you tell us a little bit about yourself, kind of maybe where you're from, your family, or anything at all you'd like to share just about you?
Yeah. So I'm from Cincinnati, Ohio. Lived there pretty much, my entire life. I came to OU 2 years ago. And I found the Whitmer Lab while I was interviewing for my college. And when I started my college career, I was really interested in this kind of wildlife part of biology. And I found a paleontology lab. So, who doesn't love dinosaurs? I've loved dinosaurs and animals ever since I can remember. Like, when I was a little kid, I would read animal encyclopedias that I still have on my bookshelf instead of pretending to be a superhero or a little princess like all the other kids my age were doing. So I knew when I got here that this would be a great fit for me.
Well, who would have thought you were going to grow up to be a science princess? Maybe that's a new term.
Yeah. I'll make that my official title.
That's excellent. I think that's a great plan. So let me ask you, can you explain before I ask you that first question, I want to get back to something. Ohio University Honors Tutorial College. What is that? Explain what that is and exactly how were you able to get into it?
Yeah, okay. So it's actually not very well-known college. I actually obviously had heard of Ohio University just by living in Ohio, but I actually heard of it through my old piano teacher. She actually had a daughter that was a biological sciences major in this college, and so I wanted to check it out because it seemed like it was a really good program. It's actually its own little college within Ohio University, so like they have the Arts and Sciences College, they have the College of Business, they have the Honors Tutorial College. And so they have a bunch of different majors kind of within their scope. They've got dance, they have astrophysics, they have journalism. So we have a really wide range. And so I had heard that it was this really kind of high level, looking for really intense, determined, and high-achieving students. And so I applied, and you have an interview, and I got in. And essentially what it is, it's kind of like the honors college at, like OSU, Ohio State, or any other kind of college, but it's got a really homey feel. It kind of makes the, even though OU is like a kind of middle-sized school, it makes it even smaller because we are a little family. I think there's 84 people in my class. And so the big kind of thing that OU Honors Tutorial College has is that you're able to take a tutorial every semester with a professor one-on-one, which is really super rare to do. So you can take it in any discipline you want and learn about pretty much anything you want. And you also have to do a thesis your senior year, which kind of helps set us apart from other students if we want to go on to grad school or go on to med school or something like that. So
wow.
I love it. It's great.
That's, boy, for somebody who is focused, really focused on a career, that sounds like an incredible place to look up for all of you, especially those of you that are in high school now and are making plans. And what an exciting place that sounds like. And congratulations for being being accepted. That's really neat. So
thank you.
So one of your focus of your subject to focus is cellular and molecular biological sciences. Can you explain kind of what is that exactly?
So there's kind of two tracks you can go in biological sciences. You can either go more wildlife and ecology, which is more what paleontology can, if you consider, you can kind of put that in that area. And then there's the other side, which is cellular and molecular, which is more like genetics and like cancer research and stuff like that. And so when I first came, I thought I would be more interested in wildlife, which, I mean, I still am. But like upon taking some of my courses and stuff, freshman year, I took genetics, and I realized that that was what more I wanted to take a career out of, and kind of develop that into my course load. And so I decided to kind of take that track as opposed to the more ecology track.
Nice. That's cool. Now, was there a specific moment that you can think of when something went off in your brain and you said, that's what I want to study? Was there a moment? Like, I ask this because for some people, they can reference, I went to a museum and I saw X, or I met this person and it caused me to do Y. Was there a moment like that for you, or was it just a slow, gradual buildup of something you loved?
I think it was kind of a mix of both. Again, in genetics, I realized I thought it was really cool, so that kind of started to build up with that. But then I actually had an NSF REU internship at Clemson this summer, and I remember sitting on my bed. I was watching House on Netflix at like 10 p.m., and he diagnosed one of the patients with having an issue of cancer stem cells. And so I remember pausing my computer, going on Google, and looking up like what cancer stem cells were. I was texting my family group chat we have. I was like, this is super cool. Like, does anybody know about this? Like, my sister was like, yeah, it's this brand new like field. And I was like, this is what I want to do. Like, I want to do cancer research.
Oh, what a great story.
Yeah.
That is so cool. Now, you said you were chatting with your family. Are there other members of your family that are in this field?
Well, my parents were both physicians. My mom was a pediatrician and my dad was an ER doc. They've both moved on to other things, but they kind of introduced me to kind of the medicine, scientific part of the world. My sister is actually in grad school at UVA, so she kind of introduced me to the grad school part because I honestly was not really sure that there was something else other than med school until she went to grad school. She's doing biomedical engineering, which is different than like what I'm interested in, but it's still, I think it's super cool. And my brother is he goes to Rose-Hulman, and he's, I think, computer engineering or computer science. So he also kind of helped introduce me to kind of the high-driven workforce.
So when you're sitting around at the Thanksgiving table and you're ripping apart the turkey and explaining bones, you're not explaining it to novices. They're probably right there with you, right? Your mom and dad.
Yeah.
Your dad is looking at the leg going, clearly this animal injured his leg when he was 5.
Yeah, I think I remember this past Thanksgiving I picked up the wishbone and I was like, yeah, this is also called a furcula. And they were like, what? So I can still teach them a few things too.
Did your mom shake her head and go, we've lost the princess in this child?
Yeah, we've lost her. But I bet I can imagine how proud they must be that you're doing. That's so exciting. Now, I understand that you work with a fellow named Dr. or Professor Witmer. I hear he is one of the most terrifying men on the planet. His students fear him horribly. Are the rumors correct? Is he as bad as I hear? Not at all. No, not in my experience. He's like essentially my second dad at school. So, I mean, he let me into his lab as like, I was a freshman, like first week of freshman year, I was in his lab. So he had faith that I could do this. And he'll be like, if you need me, like my car died this morning. I was telling him about it. He was like, like if you ever need me, like you can call me and I will come jump your car at 2 a.m. if you need it. And I was like, yeah. So no, they're definitely not true.
I'm kidding. I got to tell you something. I'll tell you something neat, Emily. I've admired Professor Witmer's work for a long time. I've been a huge fan. And we did a television series where I was able to meet him personally and interview him. And I was terrified because one of the scariest things is when you have somebody that you look up to, and you're a huge fan of their work, you sort of in your mind can build them up to be someone they're not. And they always say never meet your heroes, because you're usually disappointed because they may not be the person that you've imagined in your mind. But I've got to say that Dr. Witmer was not only at the level I had hoped and prayed he would be, he was beyond that. He is one of the kindest people. And you're fortunate to sort of be under his wing. Notice how I worked in the bird theropod thing there where I said wing?
Yes.
Pretty slick, huh? See, that's why you're a biological science and I just do podcasts. But he is such a fine guy, and I'm thrilled. I'm thrilled that you're able to work with him. That's really neat.
Me too.
So let me ask you now, let's get into a little bit of his lab. You know, they use some of the most high-tech equipment in science. And can you kind of tell us about maybe some of the equipment that you've either seen them use or you get to use, and sort of how it's given you insight into your career?
Yeah, so one of the main things that we use for our more high-tech stuff is we have a CT scanner. We either use a larger one at Oblenis Hospital for kind of the bigger specimens we want. And we also have a micro CT scanner, and we have smaller things that we can, we actually have one on site here on campus. And so we're able to kind of scan those bones or heads or whatever we want to scan, really. And we're able to kind of visualize things that we might necessarily not be able to just looking at the specimen, if it's too fragile, if it's kind of something we don't really want to take apart, something like that. And it's kind of exposed me to the more computer part of science, because I started a bioinformatics certificate, and so I had to kind of learn how to start using computers. And I didn't know that it was such a big part of biological sciences. I didn't know that they went so closely hand in hand. So that kind of opened me up to that and made me think that starting the certificate would be a good idea.
Right. So what are some of the more interesting things that you've been able to study using some of this equipment?
Well, I've just kind of started getting into it this semester. But what I've started working on, just to kind of get used to the software, we use a software called Aviso. What I've started doing is actually we have a scan of an emperor penguin skull, and what I've been working on is kind of filling in its brain cavity to make what's called an endocast. So essentially you're making its brain out of kind of the indents and what the brain cavity looks like. And so that part's been super fun especially because I'm super artistic, and so you're essentially like painting a brain, which I thought was super cool. So that's definitely my favorite part so far. And I think after I get comfortable using the software, we're going to move on to something more with T-Rex.
Wow. You know, it's amazing, the coincidence, because just last night while I'm watching TV, I'm working on the endocast of an emperor penguin myself, because that's pretty normal.
Really?
Yeah, that's what everybody does. So I'm doing that. And I'm watching. Yeah. But how exciting. On a personal note, when you have friends that you know, either those from high school that you stay in touch with, or those maybe that you're going to school with, when you talk so nonchalantly about recreating the brain cavity of an emperor penguin, what sort of responses and reactions do you get from your family and friends?
Well, my family usually responds a bit better than my friends, just since they know me a little better. They know that I like weird stuff like this. I used to tell my friends, because when I first started in this lab, I started with dissecting things just to kind of like hone those skills, because that's really important for this lab. I would tell my friends, like, yeah, like I was cutting open like an albatross today, and they'd be like, ew, like why? Like, why do you think that's cool? Like, ew. So definitely, I think they've all been super supportive about it once they kind of like I tell them what exactly I'm doing. But yeah, they've definitely supported me a lot.
You know, the greatest joy of modern times being now are two things, in my opinion. One is that young women, and then adult women, of course, can go on to do any career, and there's no stigma associated with it anymore. You know, there was a time when I was a kid that there were what we thought in our mind as man jobs and woman jobs. And there are so many young women that I meet who either love dinosaurs, they love animals, and you could really do a lot to encourage them to follow in your footsteps. Maybe not the identical career, but you know, we were joking about the princess stuff and all that, and you know, but it's so great to hear you talk about those things, and of course I do understand that people kind of must go, what do you mean you cut open an albatross?
Yeah.
But you're going to be such an inspiration, Emily, to so many young people, all people. But I'm so thrilled to hear about that. That's just the best.
Yeah.
So let's talk about this video series called Dissecting with Emily. That could almost be the greatest title for a science show or a horror show about a lunatic named Emily who lives in Ohio. So tell us about that show. Give us some feedback. Tell us what is that show?
So essentially, it started out as just when I was learning how to dissect things, I would show Whitmer things that I thought were super cool. I remember one time I cut open, I think, a hawk stomach, and another leg came out. So we were like, let's record that and put it on Facebook and tell people that we found this leg in a stomach and see if people would know what it is. So it kind of started out like that, just kind of showing people what little random acts of anatomy is what we called it, that happened in the lab. And mostly it would be really short videos, pretty informal. Mostly Whitmer was talking. And then I remember one time last year he texted me and was like, okay, do you want to try this video? And I was thinking maybe you could talk this time. And I remember looking at my phone and I was like, nope. And I just didn't answer because I was terrified of talking in front of anybody, terrible public speaking. I hated it. But we ended up doing the video. I actually rewatched it a little bit ago. I looked terrified the whole time. But so it kind of evolved into a back and forth between me and him kind of talking and explaining things. We switched from just using kind of like an iPhone, switching to a real camera, and it's kind of progressed from there. We just actually shot a video yesterday, which I think is going to be put up in the next few days. So, you asked me a year ago if I would be talking in front of a camera this easily, I would have said no way.
Well, I want you to know that the reason why I immediately wanted to interview you for this is because you explain things very clearly and you seem very relaxed. And yeah, the first couple of videos you ever shoot, it's always a little uncomfortable, but I will tell you that you're doing a very good job, and it's very clear to understand whether for everyone, you need to go to YouTube and search Whitmer Lab, WITMER Lab, Whitmer Lab, and you can see this entire series. And you do such an interesting job and such an array of different animals and different specimens. And for those of you who may be weak of stomach, perhaps it may be difficult, but for science, it is incredibly interesting. And I think they're just the best. Now, have you had any technical problems while making these? Has there something gone not as planned? Is there any behind the scenes stuff you can give us that Dr. Whitmer won't say, don't ever tell anybody that happened again?
I mean, the takes we put up are not first takes. I mean, they are 5, 6, 7th take in. I mean, there have been times where I think I've said something I tried to say parasitic. I think the other day I said parasitistic. So he had to stop for that one. Sometimes we'll forget to put a mic on. I don't think we've had anything fall over yet, so that's good. But yeah, it's not a one-shot deal. There's definitely effort that we put into it behind the scenes.
Well, I like the back and forth between you and Professor Whitmer. I enjoy that immensely. But I will tell you that watching the progression of how you have progressed as a host of that segment, it's very impressive. It's really exciting. And one of the reasons why I admire Professor Whitmer, the reason why I admire him is because he's one of the few people who can communicate technical things to any audience, be it little kids to adults. I see that same thing in you, that I think you could be a tremendous spokesperson for your study, to be able to be that link between the average person, and average meaning those that don't have any background in that particular study. But I think you've got such a great career ahead of you. I'm thrilled to see the work that you're doing. So
yeah, thank you.
You bet. So the video that really caught my attention, the latest in your series, is you with Tyrannosaurus Rex. Holy cow.
Yeah.
How
yeah.
For my younger audience, why would you be doing birds in one episode and then you do a Tyrannosaurus Rex in another? Explain why they have anything to do with each other.
Well, actually, birds are dinosaurs. So technically, dinosaurs are still living today. Dinosaurs actually evolved into birds today. So that's what that's why we kind of use both those things in our lab. Our goal is to flesh out the past. So we, because we don't always have every single remaining structure left. When you look at a fossil, a lot of the soft tissues are gone, the muscles are gone, the eyeballs are gone. So if you want to study that stuff, you have to look in something that's related to it. And so the best thing that we have are birds, because they are essentially dinosaurs. And so we use birds and a lot of modern animals a lot to kind of use the information we get from that to infer things about the dinosaurs and how they might have lived and how they might have looked and functioned.
So modern birds are your window into extinct animals.
Yeah, essentially.
That's cool. That's really cool.
Yeah.
So tell us now about, everybody loves Tyrannosaurus Rex. He's not my favorite, and that's why maybe I don't have as many friends as I used to. I like Allosaurus. You need to do an Allosaurus video if you want to get back in my good graces, lady. But tell us about that specimen and what it was like for you to be looking and studying and touching a piece of history.
Mm-hmm. So it's the holotype specimen of T-Rex. So the first fossil that they found, and they were like, okay, we're going to name this Tyrannosaurus Rex. So those are the actual fossils. And we actually were able to get them on loan from the Carnegie Museum of Natural History. I think it's the first time that they were actually let out. So that's a big deal, first of all, is that they let us actually take them.
Wow.
But I remember we were in Carnegie when they first brought it out, and everyone in the lab was like, oh my God. We were all touching it with one finger, and we were like, I could not believe it. I had no idea that I would eventually be able to touch the holotype or even just a real fossil in general ever. So that was really exciting.
Well, and the holotype being the original specimen that was described and was the reason for the name Tyrannosaurus Rex.
Yeah.
So you are touching the animal that ultimately becomes the most popular dinosaur on the planet. You're touching that specimen.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Wow. Did you wash your hands ever after that?
I don't think so.
Yes, yeah, you can. It's okay. You can lie. It's all right. You're not being graded. It's going to be fine. That's so exciting. So what kind of things is the lab going to do with the specimens? Do you have any idea what the ultimate plan is with them?
We've kind of have a bunch of kind of different ideas with it. We did CT scan them, so we have that scan data, which I think is what I'm going to work on. We kind of discussed it in that video. We talked about tooth regeneration. They are actually they have the teeth that continually replace themselves, not like we do where we have one set of baby teeth, one set of grown-up teeth. They continually replace their teeth throughout their life. And so that's something I kind of wanted to look into more. Also, what we did in this video we just shot yesterday is we kind of looked at some pathologies or kind of wounds that the fossils have shown on some of the jaws, which I was really excited on. I remember he told me that, Whitmer told me that there were some bite marks on one of the jaws, and I was like, that's what I want to do. I call the pathologies. Nobody else gets them. And so that's another thing that we kind of wanted to look at so far. Has
there been any aha moments yet of something unexpected, or did he pretty much know what to expect? He just wanted to get more detail about it?
I think, not quite sure. I think there's been a few aha moments, just kind of getting to see them closer. We found this really large hole in one of the jaws, which we wanted to definitely look at. That was kind of exciting because it wasn't supposed to be there. And there are some really kind of clear pathologies that you could easily kind of see what was happening that we definitely want to look into more.
That's so exciting. Do you know if he plans on actually writing an actual paper on what's found? Do you have any idea?
We were actually kind of discussing it yesterday. Some of the pathologies haven't necessarily been described in detail, so that is definitely might be something we might end up kind of writing up and letting people know that is on this specimen.
Right. So of all the episodes that you've done so far, whether it is the T-Rex series or your dissecting series with the birds and things, is there one in particular that you have enjoyed the most?
I think my very first one that I did completely by myself, Whitmer wasn't on screen at all, I don't think. We did it with this penguin it was a pelican. Yeah, pelican, that we named Nigel. And we were kind of describing some things that were unique to them. They have this really large gular pouch. We were talking about that. And I remember that we brought in some references with Finding Nemo, which I thought was super fun. But it was pretty much the first time that I was able to stand in front of the camera completely by myself and just do a dissecting with Emily video without having to kind of switch back and forth. So I had to know all of the dialogue that we were going to say. I had to be able to deliver it. I had to remember what we were going to say. So I think that was really the part where I got really comfortable with talking in front of a camera because I did have to do it all by myself.
And that's a memory you'll never forget.
Yeah.
Never forget it. I promise you it will be the thing you'll never forget. One day, who knows where your career is going to take you, but while you're standing at the podium waiting for them to hand you some new award, you're going to be sitting there going, it all started with me playing with a dead pelican. Isn't that a romantic way to put it?
Yeah.
It's like I ought to be a writer. I could just paint these magnificent pictures. Now, are there any upcoming video subjects that you are allowed to discuss with us? Is there anything on the horizon that you can tell us about? Or if not, should we look for something, let's just say, exciting coming up?
I think what we're doing, we're going to try and give you more up-close views of all of the holotype bones that we have, because we do eventually have to give them back to Carnegie, unfortunately. Sure. So I think we're just kind of trying to look at the bones, find something interesting that we can kind of show you and just give you a close-up and kind of detailed look at all of the bones that we have on loan before they have to go back.
Wow. So for all of you out there that love Tyrannosaurus Rex, absolutely, like I said, go to YouTube. And I'll make sure on my webpage, everybody, dinosaurgeorgepodcast.com, one word, dinosaurgeorgepodcast.com. I will put links on that page to his YouTube page at Whitmer Lab. But for everybody, if you don't want to wait for that to come up, go right to YouTube today. Just search Whitmer Lab, and you'll see the series, and you'll see their wonderful host Emily there. And you want to definitely subscribe, because you want to be made aware of as they add more videos, and especially if you're going to give more information about that holotype specimen of Tyrannosaurus. Novice or expert, you got to go see that. So let me ask you finally, Emily, what is your ultimate goal for a career? What would you, if you could choose the perfect job, what would it be?
I think right now it does fluctuate a lot because I always find something I think is interesting. But this stayed kind of steady for a while. I think I do, as of right now, want to go into cancer research. I do kind of want to explore what I discovered on House that one night with the cancer stem cells. And so this semester I actually am doing a tutorial with a cancer researcher, so I can kind of learn about like what cancer is, like how it works, and sort of the cellular techniques that they use, in case I do actually want to go into that field and make that a career for myself.
What an honorable thing to do.
Yeah.
And a non-selfish thing to do, to want to do something that benefits society. All right, I'm a genie in a bottle. You get one wish. What is the animal, either extinct or modern, that you get to study? What do you choose, and why do you choose it?
Ooh. Well, I love cats. I have decided that I'm going to be a little old cat lady with 50 cats one day. So I think I would love to study the saber-toothed tiger. I think those things are super cool. Ever since I watched Ice Age, I think his name was, I think it was Diego.
It was Diego. Yes.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, the little saber-toothed cat. I loved him. So that would be my favorite thing.
Wow, how exciting. Well, she is the host of Dissecting with Emily, a YouTube video series created by Whitmer Lab in Ohio University, where she is a sophomore student at Ohio University Honors Tutorial College. Emily, it has been an absolute pleasure to speak with you. It's like I knew you were going to be the perfect interview because you're the perfect host, and I would expect to hear nothing less than great things about you in the future, and I hope you'll consider coming back and sharing all the new things that you've learning and that you're sharing. I can't thank you enough. Just thank you so much for taking time out to do this.
You're welcome. Thanks for talking to me.
You bet. And please make sure and tell Professor Witmer that everybody in San Antonio at 1080 and I say hello.
Okay, I will.
All right, thanks so much.
You're welcome.
It's time to ask Dinosaur George. In this segment, George answers your questions about paleontology. If you would like to leave a voice message, call us at 210-888-9077. This is not a toll-free call, so children, please ask your parents' permission. If you would like to submit your question in writing, go to dinosaurgeorge.com and click the Ask Dinosaur George page. Questions are chosen at random and we clear all messages monthly. So if you have a question about paleontology, ask Dinosaur George.
All right, everybody, let's answer a couple of questions from you, the listener. This first one is from Siri from New Braunfels, Texas. How can you find dinosaur body parts? Siri, a lot of people ask me, how do you know where to look for dinosaurs? Layers of earth are like pages of a book, and different pages are exposed in different parts of the world. So what I mean by that is lay a book on its side and look at all the pages. Well, imagine if you open up that book to page 100, and let's say that page represents the Cretaceous period. Okay, in some places of the earth, page 100 is the land you're walking on. So you can see things that were living at that time on that page. If you go to a different part of the world, it might be a different page that you're walking on, a different layer of dirt. So if I wanted to find dinosaur bones, I've got to go to places where erosion has uncovered the page that I'm looking for, and I can find them. You see, in New Braunfels, Texas, the page that you're standing on, Siri, happens to be the end of the Cretaceous. It was a time when New Braunfels, Texas was under the ocean. So you can't find a Tyrannosaurus Rex there because the shoreline was way out in an area, Big Bend, Texas, about 7 or 8 hour drive from where you are. So you have to be able to know where to go, which page is exposed, and then you have a better idea of what you can find. For instance, if I wanted to find mammoth bones, I could go to a lot of places because that layer of dirt is exposed in a lot of different places. It's exposed all over Texas. It's exposed in Missouri, in Nebraska, in South Dakota, in Florida. I think also, I think there's also a Pleistocene age sites, I think in New Mexico and possibly Arizona and California. So anyway, that's basically how we know where to look, Siri. We find out which layer of land holds the bones, and then we go to those places. All right, let's see. Sprite from a place called Planet Earth. Well, Sprite, that narrows it down pretty well. Hello, George. It's me, your boy Sprite. Hey, Sprite, great to hear from you. Are you aware that when I search Dinosaur George, one of the searches results is Dinosaur George Pig? Also, what's your favorite Sharknado movie? Let me tell you about that Dinosaur George Pig. I don't know what it's associated with, but I see it all the time. It's a character in some kid's show that I think Peppa Pig. That's the name of a show. I think that comes from Europe. And the little pig is named Dinosaur George. How nice is that? Or I think that at least there's a little character named Dinosaur George. But I do see that a lot. Whenever my name appears somewhere, I get a Google alert to let you know, because I stay on top of that stuff. And I'm constantly seeing Dinosaur George, Peppa Pig. And I'm like, thank you. Thank you so much. I know that I need to lose some weight, but for the love of Pete, do we have to call me a pig? So that's what you're seeing when you Google Dinosaur George. For my favorite Sharknado movie, you know, it's hard to beat that first one. It was so amazingly terrible. I've never had so much fun laughing at a movie in my life. I'm thrilled that they didn't take themselves seriously when they made the movie. It was funny and it was hilarious. The only thing is when the other ones came out, I think they tried too hard to make it funny, and they weren't as good. So, yes, I actually watched Sharknado, and I was thrilled to see how amazingly horrible it was. Good talking to you, Sprite. Hope you enjoy being on planet Earth. All right, let's go to Frank from Stratford, Connecticut. Hello, Mr. Blasting. I hope you're doing well. Frank, I am, and thank you again for your courtesy of calling me Mr. It truly does not bother me at all for you to call me George, DG, Dinosaur George, whatever you like. But I really appreciate your courtesy, Frank, and it speaks highly of who you are. So Frank says, my question is, do you think a pack of velociraptors would ever attempt to hunt and kill a full-grown Shantungosaurus? Thank you for answering my question, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. Well, thank you, Frank. That's very kind of you, and I hope you and your family and friends are having a great day and have better days in the future. As for Velociraptor attacking a full-grown Shantungosaurus, my guess would be they wouldn't dare. I don't think any dinosaur as lightly built as a little Velociraptor is ever going to attack anything that's so much bigger than they are. It's just too big of a dinosaur. I'll tell you the truth, Frank. I don't even know if Velociraptor... Now, I don't know if they live together or not. I'd have to research that. I'm doing this from memory. I don't know if Velociraptor and Shantungosaurus live together same time, same place. But if they did, I don't even think Velociraptors would take on even a young Shantungosaurus because the size difference is too great. You know, predatory animals only survive and pass their genes into the next generation if they are smart at what they do. And to attack another dinosaur, you know, there's a lot of evidence. In fact, if you guys will go to the Whitmer Lab YouTube video series that Emily is doing right now, they just posted one about injuries sustained to a Tyrannosaurus Rex. Think about the size of a Tyrannosaurus Rex, and it's leading a very difficult, tough life. So when you're little and small like Velociraptor, you don't have the bone structure to put up with the kind of damage that Tyrannosaurus Rex would be able to do. So I think T-Rex would go blasting in, jaws agape, looking for a fight. I think Velociraptors are much slimmer, much lighter, and much more cautious when it comes to really big things. Okay, this last one is from Vincent from Algood, Tennessee. Algood, Tennessee. You know, Vincent, I spent some time in Tennessee. That is some of the most beautiful country on the planet. And I have been all over the world. And I absolutely got to say, the hills of Tennessee are simply magnificent. Okay, he says, hello. I'm very glad to be speaking with you. Well, thank you, Vincent. I'm glad that you took the time to write. Vincent says, I have two questions. First, if dinosaurs are still alive, would the oxygen levels affect their size? That's a very interesting question. Now, dinosaurs are still alive because birds are classified as avian dinosaurs, but I know what you're referring to as the dinosaurs we think of when we say dinosaurs, like Rex and Velociraptors and those guys. My guess would be that since oxygen levels appeared to be higher, considerably higher, during the age of dinosaurs, that their bodies were adapted to that. So therefore, they're like supercharged engines. Their engine requires a high oxygen intake. It's like when you put gas in a Ferrari, you got to put the highest octane gas in a Ferrari because that's what that thing is designed. It needs that high octane to make everything work the way it should. I suspect that dinosaurs were the same way, that their bodies required that high percentage of oxygen. Now, if that oxygen level dropped gradually, then I think dinosaurs would have evolved to been able to deal with it. But I do think that we would not see the sheer size of those dinosaurs anymore, because they would require, when you're giant, you need a greater amount of oxygen to do the things you normally do. Now, if you are a sauropod and you're moving at a slow rate and you have a low metabolism, it's not that big of a deal. But if you're a theropod and you need to get up and move, then you're going to have a harder time. Think of it this way, Vincent. If somebody picked you and I up and put us on top of Mount Everest with no oxygen, we would have a very difficult time just walking. We couldn't do anything. We would die in short order. Well, that's kind of sort of with the point I'm trying to make with these big dinosaurs. They simply couldn't do the things necessary to survive. All right, the second question is, why is it that birds aren't considered reptiles? Aren't they considered theropod dinosaurs after all? Well, they are. But over time, paleontologists have come to the realization that theropod dinosaurs are not very reptilian-like at all, that they are much greater, there's a much greater relationship with modern birds or with birds in general. And so the split that occurs between the legs splayed out to the side, cold-blooded, tail-dragging reptiles and theropods occur before birds branch off from theropods. So because they are so distantly related, there's no reason to consider a bird a reptile, even though birds have some features that may seem reptilian, like their feet, for instance, or even their feathers for that matter, ultimately at one time were probably scales. But it goes so far back in time, and that split is so dramatically different that birds and theropod dinosaurs will not looked upon as true reptiles anymore. They're much more. It's more realistic to refer to them as birds and not reptiles. Okay, when I come back, I'm going to do a short announcement of upcoming dates and locations for my traveling museum. I hope that you guys might be able to make it one day. I'd love to meet all of you in person. So stick around. I'll be right back.
Bring Dinosaur George's traveling exhibit to your school, museum, or city. This is the largest exhibit of its kind in North America and will turn any facility into a natural history museum. You'll see things like prehistoric mammals, giant fish, ancient reptiles, and of course, dinosaurs. It's affordable, amazing, and will be an event you'll never forget. See complete details at dinosaurgeorge.com or call us toll-free, 888-487-7478. Bring Dinosaur George's traveling museum to your community today.
As many of you know, I have a traveling museum that goes from elementary school to elementary school, pretty much all over the country, but we focus about 99.5% of our time in Texas. And it's not because I don't want to travel any other states. It's just that since we are a Texas-based business, other states, it costs a lot of money travel-wise to get us to come to there. So oftentimes what happens is they may want us to come, but the travel fees are just makes it too expensive, and they're not able to let us do it. So for all of you outside of Texas, I apologize. I know some of you would love to see the museum, but all these dates that I'm getting ready to announce are in Texas. But I will tell you this, if you live in another state and either you're associated with an elementary school, you're going to an elementary school, or if you're associated with a chamber of commerce or a city, because a lot of times cities hire us to come in to do a community event for the entire population. If you are associated with those, keep in mind that if we can get booked far enough ahead, we then have the opportunity to find other places between where we are and where we're going. And as we find those places to book us, then what we do is we reduce the travel fees for everybody, because now we're making multiple stops. So it certainly is possible that we could come to your community regardless of where you are. Well, you got to be in North America. I can't pack this stuff up in and ship it. But you got to be in North America. But anywhere you are, there's a very good possibility that you could get us to come. So here are the dates and the locations. Keep in mind, these are all elementary schools. They usually open the exhibit in the evening to the public. You can't come in during the day because they won't let you on school property. But in the evening, when they open the exhibit, they usually open it to the general public. If you hear a location that's near you, we absolutely encourage you to contact the school and ask them if they are going to allow the general public. It may be a private event, and I'd hate for you to show up and not be able to get in. So I encourage you to contact the school. Here we go. February 2nd, 2017, by the way. Dalton Elementary in Grand Prairie, Texas. February 6th, Carver Center Elementary in Midland, Texas. February 9th, Mernon Elementary in San Antonio, Texas. February 15th, Whitmore Elementary, San Antonio, Texas. February 17th, Kerr Elementary, Allen, Texas. February 21st, Los Reyes Elementary in Helotes, Texas. February 24th, February 24th, Alice Ponder Elementary, Mansfield, Texas. And February 28th, D.T. Shields Elementary in Glen Heights, Texas. All right, everybody, that's it for this show. I want to thank Miss Emily Caggiano for taking the time to do an interview with us. I know how busy she must be. And a special shout out to Professor Larry Witmer and his team over at Whitmer Lab. There is honestly no better place to learn about cutting-edge science than his website, YouTube videos, or Facebook page. And I'll post links to all of them on my podcast page at dinosaurgeorgepodcast.com. Until next time, please follow us on Facebook and Twitter. You'll see links on my podcast page to those sites. Visit our online catalog at store.dinosaurgeorge.com and check out our website at dinosaurgeorge.com. Until next time, take care of yourself. Take care of the people around you. Be courteous to those, especially those with whom you disagree. When you are having a conversation, that means both sides are talking and both sides are listening. But if you're not doing both, if you're not willing to at least listen to the other person, well, then that's having a closed mind, and nobody benefits from that at all. Take care, you guys. I'll see you soon.
Thank you for listening to the Dinosaur George Show. Please follow us on our social media links and join our mailing list. If you're interested in having Dinosaur George speak at your event, please visit our website at dinosaurgeorge.com. Until next time, keep digging for clues about the past.